So we're at Semantic Kernel office hours. As mentioned before the recording started, we're at lighter attendance today. We have Microsoft Build uh, this whole week, and we have the keynote coming up in a half an hour. So we're going to wrap up early so folks can watch that. As a reminder, we have other office hours that are available. We're in this one right here, which is the US EMEA one. We do have one that's monthly for APAC. And then we have two other ones. We are canceling this week's Java development office hours because of Microsoft Build. Okay. Alrighty. So with that, we can probably have one big update to share for folks that are interested in Microsoft Build and are watching some of the things virtually or even in person. We do have a session later today called Bridge the chasm between your ML and app devs with Semantic Kernel. Um, it's later this evening at 6 p.m. Pacific time, so that might be light for all of you. But if you're able to attend, great. If not, this will be recorded. And the plan for this session is I'm going to be showing just how easy it is to use our new Python SDK. And then once you've built out an agent using our Python SDK, being able to use those same assets within the Java and .NET versions of Semantic Kernel. So we have a packed agenda for the call or meeting, and we have folks from Fujitsu, which is a company in Japan, and then folks from Accenture who will also be speaking with me during the session. Alrighty. And I guess the only other couple big news is we're V1 for both Python and Java now, which is really, really great. Huge accomplishment from the team. And I think we announced this at last build, but being able to connect with Logic App and all their connectors, we just released, I'll go ahead and drop this in the chat along with the build session. Da, da, da. So if you are a fan of Logic Apps, it's a really great way of building workflows essentially with a kind of a low-code WYSIWYG approach within Azure. It's kind of a really great way of just like building a bunch of APIs within your company. Within Semantic Kernel, what we did is we built a bunch of APIs which allowed us to interact with our GitHub repo. And with the new feature provided by Logic Apps, you can now import any of these APIs into Semantic Kernel. And so we were able to have a back and forth with these APIs to review a particular PR and gave us obviously the answers. What I thought was probably more interesting is I could start asking more specific questions about the PR, and it was smart enough or capable enough to use the correct tools to open up those files. And then my favorite part was making sure that our .NET and Python libraries are at parity, are the same across the different languages. And so we were able to ask, hey, how does this compare? Nowhere in the PR does it actually mention the .NET versions, but the AI has been able to use the search endpoint to search for the same type of file or class in .NET, get that information, and then invoke it so that the assistant could provide additional clarity on the differences between the two different libraries. So exciting stuff. If you want to get started, if you do use Logic Apps, there's 3 different steps that you'll need to follow. I'm not going to bore y'all here, but it is available in the blog for you to check out. And with that, we can go ahead and open it up for questions. And for folks that are trickling in, this will be a short office hours. I know a lot of folks want to see the build keynote, so we're going to be ending shortly before that. Rigoberto.
Hi there, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Awesome. So I had asked you before about this diagram that I just pasted into the chat so you can see it again. And
Yeah.
I had asked you if this still serves as a good mental model. And you had said, oh, it's from a LinkedIn Learn course released like in March of 2023. And you had gave me some corrections to this mental model, and that was great. And I was just asking regarding so those blog posts have been great, like the individual examples that you can then go through and implement yourself. Are you able to like take suggestions for that, or is there like a different forum that's better for that?
No,
Because
no, this is a great forum for that feedback.
yeah,
Another place that's asynchronous is, of course, our discussion boards on GitHub. But we love feedback, particularly on our docs. We're about to push out some updates in the next couple days, and so this is a great time to make sure right before I push out some of those updates, I can address some of your feedback.
excellent. So if there was a blog that created a project that basically had like in it like a README with an updated mental model, like based on this one, but then with the current best practices or whatever you guys have arrived at for a better, because I know like for memories, there's a different way you like to think about it. If there could be a project with a diagram with the current mental model you folks use, and because like I know with kernel memory, I know that because you can do that locally, you could implement this mental model locally, and give folks sooner or later. I'm going to get to it on my own, but I would love to see how what you guys would do, how exactly you guys would go about doing something completely on your machine, with something that's personal like a PDF to stand in for the private information you're using in your agent, alongside actually hitting the LLM. I think that would be very valuable, definitely for me, but I suspect for other folks as well.
Yeah. So just so that I want to repeat back what I'm hearing to make sure I got it
Yeah,
right.
please.
Basically, we have this flow that we had from the back in the olden days.
Yep.
Things have changed. Things have different names. Just having a similar flow, less from like, oh, this is how the different code pieces work together, but more from a conceptual standpoint of, hey, this is how these AI agents work, and kind of the extensibility points for you to add in things like additional tools slash plugins, memory, etc. Is that more or less right? And I guess the other big thing is attaching this conceptual reference to an actual code sample so that you can see it in action.
Yeah, basically, yeah, definitely all of that. The only thing I would add is just seeing an example completely local, um, actually implemented, right? That you could ask a question and have it reference the whatever PDF you guys decide for your example. Just like
And when you say completely local, are you also referring to like local models? Is that right?
no,
Or
other than the LLM, right?
okay,
So
got it.
like the thing you're pulling in that's private that wasn't part of the internet when when the LLMs were trained, that would be some example you guys use like a PDF.
I see.
Like, like if I could like for example, you could have the private information or the PDF be your resume, right? But then maybe you have like a plugin that gets you some live information because there's that aspect of the mental model, right? How do you get
Yep.
live information? Well, that's the plugins, or I'm not sure what you guys are using for that word,
Yep.
but
Yep. Yep.
there's whatever you use for the fresh data on the internet. There's the private information, and then there's the LLM, and that's what this diagram shows you how to put together. But I believe more than just conceptual and intellectual, you could actually implement all of this in this example with your resume, and all of a sudden you'd be hitting your personal information that's the resume, live information with the plugins. I mean, at the very least, you get like today's date, and then looking on the internet. So something like, oh, well, based on your resume and this live information from the plugins and all the things the LLM has to offer, maybe you fit in here, maybe you fit in there. That's just a random example I thought of, but I'm just saying a bit more than conceptual. I believe you can actually implement this with the only thing that's not local being the LLM. Hopefully, you guys use Azure OpenAI. That's just my
Yeah.
vote. Um, I think that would be hugely a leap forward for a lot of people in terms of putting this all together in their mind and then going out and getting that extra knowledge. Like, I don't know how to use vector databases. Well, kernel memory is a stand-in for your little example here in the blog. Now go out and learn some more. But at least now you have the mental lattice work with the slots that you can go out and get that extra knowledge. But at least you have one example that works on your machine. I think that would be huge.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, we'll work on that. We do have examples for like RAG. I'll try to find those links and share them next time. But yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other questions from folks or feedback? Have y'all been watching the build keynotes and any of the sessions? I guess hand raise. Yes, no, maybe. Yeah, Almir. Okay. Christoph. Okay, we got them to nice, nice, nice. Any announcements in particular that y'all are excited about that you're interested in seeing deeper integration with Semantic Kernel? I think that's other great feedback that I can take to the team. For me, I think probably the biggest ones that our team is going to be jumping on are the local models on the new laptops and machines for like A on the edge. So we'll be working on getting connectors for those so that you can build applications on top of those models. Exactly, Catherine. I did find out yesterday that all of the model as a service chat models do already work out of the box with Semantic Kernel. So if that's something that you're interested in, that is possible. Okay. Uh, one, Rigoberto, you still have your hand up, so you might want to lower that down. Almir, you're next.
I have a question. Yes. Basically, which models are going to be on the local PCs? Because Satya only mentioned 40 models, but I couldn't find any reference of those 40 models. Is there any information about that one? Because that's definitely.
Uh, I am personally not familiar. Yeah, I know they talked about the Phi 3 local version.
Mhm.
I'm assuming some of the other 40 are probably the open source ones. This is just like pure conjecture. So I would be surprised if like Llama is not on there. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. Still kind of learning myself. Omkar.
Hi, I had a question as well. So I'm trying to kind of make sense of the different components here, and I seem to be there seems to be a little bit of confusion between what exactly is a plugin and a connector. I mean, for example, if I have a database, I could have a connector for it, but in some sense, I can also write a plugin that can then have native functions that go and work with that database. So I'm trying to understand what's the difference between these two, and in your or from your frame of reference, what exactly qualifies as a plugin?
Yeah, so plugin is everything. And we reserve the word connector for only two things in particular. And it's the things that we have very prescribed interfaces and abstractions for. So take the LLMs. They all are supposed to do chat completion the exact same way. So we built a abstraction over that, and we now have a connector or suite of connectors to talk to OpenAI, Gemini, Mistral, etc. Right? The other set of connectors is in the AI space, you have vector DBs, and they all kind of behave similar-ish. And so we have an abstraction today, and we are currently working on updating it. So again, you can bring in a connection to your vector DBs, and you can easily. The value of connectors is because we have this abstraction on top. If a week, 2 weeks, a year from now, you decide, oh, I don't want to use Azure AI Search, I want to use this other vector DB, you'll be able to swap them out at the connector level, and you're good to go. Okay, so those are the two only connectors that we have: vector DBs and uh, uh, AI LLMs. Right. Everything else, I'm talking to my SQL database. I'm talking to an API. I'm talking to a native function. I'm talking. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always a plugin, right? Now, there's a bunch of different ways of importing plugins. Like it can be an open API spec. You mentioned native functions. Again, it doesn't matter. All that matters is you have some code, some functionality that is semantically described so that the LLM knows how to invoke it, knows how to call it. And I think that's the one last other distinction that I would have between connectors and plugins. Plugins are things that the AI uses. It's its tools, it's its hands, arms, legs, feet, it's its body to like interact with the real world. Connectors are kind of internal plumbing, right? It's a thing
Mm,
that is just giving like the AI like a brain,
right.
uh, uh, and then you're plugging in these interactive pieces on top of it.
Right. I think that, yeah, that helps. One other question I had with planners is, so do we today I can create plans. I mean, I'm specifically talking about handlebar planners here. So I can create plans and then I can run them. I was wondering if we have in future plans to, provide hooks to give visibility into each step when a plan runs, or, at least give an update on when each of those steps are completed. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to know if you guys have plans for that, or if I could do that today with
You
the
can do
existing
that
stuff.
today. You can do that today. So everything inside of a plan is a function, a kernel function, and we have today the ability to apply what we call filters. Let me see if I can get the blog post and share it for it to you. Da, 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 da. Okay. Share this in the chat. You'll basically add a filter or a hook whenever a function is invoked. And
Hmm.
as it's going through the plan, you'll have access to every single one of those steps. Now, I will take this opportunity to share that the team currently is not recommending use of our planners, whether that's handlebars or the stepwise version. Um, we are realizing that they're not as generic as all of our customers' needs. And so, actually, today during my session at Microsoft Build, I'm going to be previewing what's going to be coming next in the future, which is a Python-based planner. We believe this is much better because the LLMs are stellar at writing Python, and thanks to some of the advancements and releases at Microsoft, there's now safer ways of running Python and enterprise applications.
Interesting. So I see. Do you guys also plan to bring that to .NET anytime soon?
And that's the beauty of it, right? So the only thing, I'll say thing, that is actually writing Python is the LLM. So this planner, this Python planner will be available in .NET, Java, and Python. It's going to be very functionally similar to the handlebars planner, where again, you have a language that, or templating language that works across all three SDKs. Our Python planner will behave this exact same way. But from our internal testing, it just performs orders of magnitude better. And so that's what we're going to be recommending customers move to in the next couple months.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Perfect. Rigoberto, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Python-based planner, and I recall you had stated that you guys were leaning towards recommending auto function calling over the handlebars planner. Do you think that with two questions, with this Python-based planner, do you think someone that only knew basic Python would be able to, a .NET developer, how much Python would they have to know to adopt this? Wow.
Zero. Because the only thing that's supposed to be writing the Python is the LM, right? Just like with the handlebars planner, like really you don't need to know handlebars. Like it creates a template, it's supposed to run it. Yeah, maybe if it fails and you need to debug it, like then you might want to have someone expert in handlebars to see what's going on. But like at that point, the planner's failed. You have bigger problems, right? So I think you see this with ChatGPT. It uses Python as part of its code interpreter to call a bunch of different pieces and kind of orchestrate things. So like the goal is this is a plugin that you give to your agent. The agent's the only one that uses it. You as a developer shouldn't have to know. Yeah, I guess that's my
So
answer
this would
there.
replace auto function calling as well?
So
What's the distinction?
I would say take a look at what the Assistance API is doing because they already have this functionality. So with the Assistance API, it still uses function calling to call individual functions. And it
Right.
does that when it wants to do something very specific and very well. Once it wants to do something more complex, maybe it needs to do some time-based operations, maybe it has to do a bunch of math, maybe it has to do a bunch of for loops. At that point, the OpenAI models are smart enough to go, okay, I'm being asked to do something more advanced. I'm going to now use more advanced tooling. I'm now going to use Code Interpreter or our Python plugin, right? At that point, it'll then write some code and do it. And then from, I guess, the other value of planners is it does generate plans. Previously, we had handlebar templates or handlebar code. In the future, we're going to have Python code. You'll be able to save that, templatize it, and then if someone comes up with a similar ask, serve that back up so that the LLM doesn't have to waste time or tokens writing that Python code again. And then Omkar asks real quick, does that mean .NET clients have to have Python installed? No, no. So what's been announced in the last couple of days is the Azure Container Apps team has a brand new offering where you get a pool of Python containers, and these things are blazing fast, right? Like if you have a Python query, it just goes up, and within milliseconds, it's coming back down, right? So that is the enterprise story. So as a .NET developer, you're not standing up some Python environment, right? You're using Azure services to get this functionality. For the inner dev loop, or before you want to like take the plunge into Azure service, we will be working on providing Docker containers. So again, you don't have to worry about like, how do I use Python or whatever. You have a Docker container, you'll run one line command in your terminal, and you'll have this thing spun up. Almer.
Will we be able to see the code, the Python code then, which was generated?
Yeah, yes. Well, and it's just like any of the function calling today. So you have full inspection of, oh, this is the tool that was requested. These were the arguments. In this case, the AI is going to say, oh, I'm choosing the Python tool, and these are my arguments, and one of the arguments will be code. So you'll have full visibility into what that looks like. And to, I forget who asked, hey, can we get filters hooks into what's happening with the AI? With the filters today, you'll be able to basically inspect the code that is being generated and will be sent to the Python container. So if you want to do additional responsible AI or approval processes, you can do that as well. Right. These are great questions. And if y'all want to see, again, it's probably going to be another month or two before this is officially out. But if you want to see a preview of what this is going to look like, again, check out the build session. And I want to be showing you an extra early access pass of what this thing's going to look like. Fingers crossed it doesn't air out on me. I'm just checking the time. Like I said, I wanted to end this early so that folks could watch the build session. So we have a few minutes left. So we probably have time for one more question, and then we'll wrap up office hours. Where is the build session? So I think I linked to it. You might have not seen it if you joined late. So I'm just going to copy and paste it again. So I pasted it in the chat. If you're here, if you have a pass to build, definitely check us out. We're on the 4th floor. If not, you can watch it. It's being recorded as well, so that if for whatever reason it's too late or you have a conflict, you'll be able to watch the recording later. And Anirudh, when will the docs be updated with the new concepts for planners? So we do have a round of updates coming in the next couple days. To miss on my part, I was hoping to get these docs updated a couple days ago, but preparing for the build session took more time than I thought. So it'll likely be either Friday or this weekend when we have a really big docs update. And then Colton asked, are there any other SK specific sessions? So we have this really great blog post from my manager. There were about like 14 different sessions that were about semantic kernel. Let me build if I can find it. Okay, Evan, where did your... Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm going to paste this in the chat. I'm going to share with you kind of the two or the one in particular that I recommend. I think it's this one. Ah, yes. Okay, so I'm going to share this link for y'all. So the .NET team has a whole session on building apps with AI, and you can watch Stephen too, who is like the savior of Semantic Kernel, demo live, basically starting from scratch what it's like building a AI application with Semantic Kernel and also using .NET Aspire with that. Alrighty. Well, thanks everyone. I'll let everyone get to watching the build session. I hope to see a lot of you there at my session later today. And I hope y'all have a great week. Cheers, y'all.